And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 6. Thanks to Wisconsin Platteville head coach Jeff Gard for joining me in episode 5. And so we're ramping up to the start of the season. And we now go to Memphis, Tennessee. Although Zoe Goodson, the head coach at Rhodes, is based out of Memphis, interestingly, he's in Canada. He's in
That's
Montreal.
right.
Zoe, first of all, it's great to have you on the QCast. Thank you for being willing to do this. How are you doing? And tell us what the heck you and your team are doing in Canada right now.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is an honor to be on the QCast, and all of us D3 guys, we really enjoy this, and so to be on here for the first time is a true honor. So I really appreciate that, and obviously in great company with Coach Gard and different folks that have already been on this year. So, but we're in Canada, like you said, we're in Montreal. We played a game yesterday, so we're doing our foreign trip. So
Oh,
for the
cool.
listeners that don't really know how the foreign trip works, we have a couple of options to do it. We get to do them every 3 years as Division 3 programs, but your options are do it in the summer, but you don't get to bring your incoming folks with you, freshmen
Right.
or transfers. Or if you do it during a fall break after the school year has started, you can kind of make it an extension of your season.
Sure.
And we chose to do that since we had two transfers and three, what I really think are going to be impactful freshmen on the roster. And we really wanted to take advantage, although we don't get the long, extravagant Spain or Greece
Right.
trip out of it. We do get an opportunity to still get the 10 practices leading up to the trip and the games. And you bring everybody with you. And then, like I said, it's going to be an extension of our season. We're looking at these as our two real exhibition games going into the year.
That's cool. And so, really, the strategy seems to make sense to me. In other words, you're extending your preparation time for this
Yep,
season directly because nowadays, with the move from weeks to days, you're able to get some practices anyway in September. Then you get
correct.
the international trip practices,
Yep,
and you get to play 2 games. You've played 1 game. You have one more to go in Montreal. Is that correct, Zoe?
that's correct. So we played Champlain last night.
Cool.
Really good group of basketball players over there. Great coach. You do a great job. Well, we took about 5 minutes to get adjusted to the FIBA rules. So it took a little bit there, but it was good. Wider lane, just different nuances about the game that make it interesting, but also a lot of fun, right? And for a coach, the different ways you got to strategize because timeouts. There's no TV timeouts or media
Sure.
timeouts. Um, but you're playing quarters. You can advance the ball in the last 2 minutes with the two timeouts
Cool.
you have left. So a lot of really fun things to do. But last night or yesterday afternoon we played at 1 o'clock. Came out, really got after it in the first half. Had a nice lead at halftime. Did a really good job. My staff did an incredible job. I let them manage all the rotations and manage the subs because, as you know, for myself, I wanted to focus on the guys and
Sure.
really see what was going on out there. So we did an every 2 minute rotation the second half to make sure everybody was getting playing time. Ended up losing the game by 3 or 4. We weren't really score watching. We were in full practice mode. Um, some coaches that I've talked to along the way said, you're never going to win a championship on a foreign trip, but you can for sure lose a championship on a foreign trip. And what they meant by that is making sure that guys are getting opportunities to play, keeping the locker room together, keeping them happy. And that's really what we're focused on. This is team building. The
Sure.
practices are what's going to catapult us forward. And when we get to November 8th and get us ready for an incredible WashU program that obviously as you know, is a really great basketball team this year. So we needed the extra time. We
Yeah.
needed it just for that game alone, let alone the season.
Yeah, I
So
was going to ask you about that. I was looking at the schedule and I was like, whoa, they open against WashU. And obviously, I'm very familiar with the Bears. We like to say the Illinois Wesleyan WashU matchup is the best non-conference matchup in Division 3. It's been, going on for almost 30 years and very familiar with the Bears. When you have that kind of opener, I think I had them 3 on my ballot, maybe, and
yep,
I think some people might have them 1 or 2. Does it? It probably doesn't change the way you prepare, but you know that on November 8th, you better be ready to go. How does that
absolutely.
impact your prep, knowing that the Bears are coming?
You know, I don't change anything no matter who we're playing. And I know every coach says that, but we truly don't. Now, do we talk about it? I'm not going to sit here and act like we don't talk about the fact that you had a number three. I mean, we saw it day one, right? The players see it too. So who are we kidding to as coaches to not talk about it and not see it? Absolutely, it does. It ratchets things up. You know, you have to be ready on November 8th. You can't have any stone unturned going into that game. You got to be
Right.
prepared. And obviously, Pat's a great coach. My old assistant, it was a associate head coach, Pat McGrail, is now Pat's lead
Yeah.
assistant at WashU.
Sure.
So they're going to be prepared because he knows everything we do. He knows everything we run, and not that they needed that because they're a great team. They didn't need any help at all. But at the end of the day, it's a great staff there that's doing great things, and so we have to be prepared. We do, and we're going to be to the best of our ability. We're still a little bit young, and some of the guys that are starting, but overall, we're a much older group with juniors and seniors this year than we've ever been as a head coach here at Rhodes. But the strategy was, let's go see what we're made of early. Why not? Right. And we're going to get exposed pretty early on the things we're not good at because, like I said, a great coach team, but also a great group of athletes and basketball players. So we're going to find out really what we're made of.
And did I see this right when I looked at the schedule that like you've got your own little home and home going with WashU this season because then you at the all academic classic at your place,
That's right.
you play Chicago on November 30th, but then you play WashU again
That's
on
right.
December. So one
Glutton
time
for
was not
punishment,
enough.
man. I just love punishment, I guess. But it was an idea that some of all us coaches, we're always on the road together during the summers, and we're all crossing paths. And Pat and I, and different coaches cross paths at different times. And we're talking about we need to get an academic event together. And we talked about it for 2, maybe 3 years before we finally were able to get the schedules to line up. So it's a 4-year deal that we're doing. This year we're hosting. Next year, I believe we go to Chicago.
That's
Then
cool.
it goes to Colorado in the third year, back to St. Louis in the fourth year.
Really cool.
So each team's going to get a chance to host. I don't know if the All Academic Classic name is going to withstand the 4-year time. It's just a name I put on it because I think it truly encompasses what all 4 institutions are really about. Obviously the academic piece is really, really important to all 4 schools, as they are most at the Division III level.
Sure.
But stands out with us 4. We know we're not the only ones, but it's something that we're really proud of that we got off the ground. We're working with the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis
Cool.
to host an event there with all 4 teams on that Saturday. So we're really excited about it. We really are, and kudos to the other coaches for really helping push this through and get it across the line and make this happen. And our athletic directors. Our athletic directors were instrumental in this. And Jim Duncan, our AD, he was really, really excited to help pull all the ADs together to make it happen.
Wanted to ask a little bit about your background, Zoe, but first, I just wanted to point out when I was looking at your bio, what jumped out at me is the date that you were hired or announced at Rhodes, March 16th, 2020. And I'm like,
Yeah,
the world was falling apart at the like,
it really
and I
was.
thought to myself, so like your 4 years have been 21, 22, 23, 24. I can't think of 4 stranger years in, maybe college basketball history, but certainly Division III because, with the COVID year, it's changed the whole landscape, all
It
these
has.
5th year guys coming into different places. And what has this been like for this to be your first 4 years at Rhodes being these post-pandemic years?
I guess the good part of it is I've never been a head coach, right? So I don't really know any different as far as the head coach's seat. And my previous time was all Division 1.
Sure.
So for me, of course, the first year was just wild, right? I get the job on the 16th. I start on that Monday. The school announces, I think that Tuesday or Wednesday, that they're sending all the students
Sure.
home.
Yeah.
So I barely got a chance to even meet the players on the team. Like it was a
Wow.
wild ride just to
I'll
get a chance
bet.
to see them all before they all took off. And the uncertainty, like none of us knew at the time what was going to happen. We didn't know. They were talking 2 weeks, not and we didn't
Yeah.
realize that 2 weeks was going to turn into months and months
Right.
So it ended up, and then it turns out that we're closed in the fall,
Mm,
because so now I go from thinking I'm going to get to finally meet him in August to pushed all the way back to January.
wow.
So I I get a few Zoom calls with him here and there. Recruiting was nearly impossible. We're recruiting via
Right.
FaceTime. We're doing FaceTime tours all over campus, and so
Sure.
it's all virtual. We were lucky to sign 7 young men that off season. Two of them made it through to their senior year. So it was for a lack of a better phrase, a wild ride. I don't know what else to tell you. And then
I'm
we get
sure.
to year two, which was really our true measuring stick. So our first practice during all that was January 6th, 2021. What a date that no one's going to forget, right? And so for other reasons, but
Right.
so we're getting into our first practice. I got to meet them all truly on the fourth, physicals, get everything in place, and then the sixth, and we get a practice. Our first game was on the 8th. No, I'm sorry, the 14th. The 14th. So you go from the 6th to the 14th. I'm trying to implement a brand new system, and so didn't go very well. It's 2-12. We had some shutdown. We had 2 shutdowns, 10-day shutdowns during the middle of
Right.
that little short sprint because of COVID. So it was we had 6 weeks of a season, and we practiced maybe 20 times, 22 times total. It was just
Wow.
a weird time, but zero excuses, because at the end of the day, it did make the guys mentally tougher,
Sure.
ready to go for that, and it made them even more eager to get started October 15th of 21. And then when you really look at the measuring stick there. They went from 5-21 to, it's been last year was a bit of a disappointment in the number of wins, but when we got healthy, we really made the run, and only the third time the school's ever been to a championship game,
Right.
in conference championship tournament. And so the steps have been there, going the right direction. But yeah, it's been a hell of a ride to see what we've
I'll
been
bet.
through to start it to where we're getting, and we know we're nowhere near where we want to be. But we've gone from not even being on Bob's list to being on the QCast to finally making it. So I think we're going in the right direction. I hope so. I hope we're getting the right recognition.
I like the measuring stick. And you,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, you guys played for the SAA conference tourney last year. You played Barry.
Yep.
Barry's been on a run. They've been great
Incredible.
in your league, right? And so you beat Birmingham Southern, you beat Oglethorpe, you lose to Barry. Barry goes into the tournament. This year, Zoe, when you look at the SAA, I guess coming in, I don't know if there's a coaches poll that's come out yet. I would assume that Barry at 13-1, and whoever they lost, but I'm sure they returned guys. I'm sure they're the favorite.
No doubt.
Center 7-7, Sewanee 7-7, etc. Do you look at Barry coming in on paper as the favorite in your conference?
Yeah, I would think Barry, Oglethorpe. I mean, I think Oglethorpe's returning everyone. I mean,
Okay,
and Phil's done an incredible job there, and those guys are just tough. I mean, they play incredibly tough, and of course, Greg is an incredible coach. But Sewanee, got to remember, Sewanee's returning everyone. You're
sure.
talking they've got a potential. They got 2, maybe 3 dudes on that squad that could be potential first team all conference
Wow.
guys. Brian has he's recruited his butt off, and he's keeping those guys together. So really, the league is going to be really tough as a whole. I mean, really, really
Yeah.
tough across the board. And I don't, I'm not, and what Mike's done at Millsaps, he's got some incredible
Yeah.
athletes that when they're going, they're going. I mean, we lost to them at their place, and it wasn't even a game. So the league to me is going to be really, really competitive. It's going to be really interesting to see
Sure.
what it's like come January, because no one's playing any early games. I
Yeah.
mean, now we play Center and Hendricks in non-conference games because of the whole BSC closure. We had to
Yeah.
pick up a couple of games late, so we just we agreed to do a classic that way. But at the end of the day, everyone I think is really competing for that top spot, and I know that that's the politically correct. Everybody's going to think that I'm just saying it. I'm not saying to say it. I truly
Yeah.
mean. I think that our league, we don't know what Coach Boone, brand new coach at Hendricks. So we know the brand new system. So
Right.
we're not 100% sure. Roster's not completely updated online, so we're not sure what he's got coming in. And so, it's a really wide open league this And I'm really, really eager to get to that point, but I want to take it slow and let's build where we got to be so we're prepared because I do think the league across from 1 through 7 this year, the parity is going to be really, really equal. Okay, and we're going to
Right.
be at a point where somebody could easily jump out and separate themselves, but it could be a really tight pack.
You mentioned not having rosters for everybody, and welcome to the world of the D3hoops.com top 25 voter. Like, magnify
Yeah.
your conference by about 42, and like we're trying to comb through impact transfers and who's coming back, and
Yep.
in Division 3 it's a little hard to figure out exactly who the personnel is. With your background, it's pretty fascinating. So you have this really cool connection mentorship with Tubby Smith, legendary college hoops
Yep.
coach. And I think that the stops that I have where you worked with Tubby Smith, if I have this right, Kentucky, Minnesota, Texas Tech, and Memphis. Is that correct? Like all those stops are stops where you
And
were,
High Point.
and High
And,
Point, and
and
High
High
Point.
Point. Yeah. I
Those were
mean,
all
so Rhodes
stops.
hired me from High Point. So, yeah. So basically, 2001, I started off as a student manager for him at
While you're
University
a
of
student
Kentucky.
at Kentucky,
Yep.
right?
So I was a freshman student manager, worked all 4 years undergrad, worked 2 years of grad as a what they call a grad manager nowadays at the University of Kentucky. Went with him to Minnesota, all 6 years at Minnesota. Through we went to 5 postseasons in 6 years,
Wow.
3 NCAA tournaments during that time, and NIT championship game run. So really successful run in Minnesota. The year we were let go, we went to the second round of the NCAA tournament, and it was really an incredible year. Got to Texas Tech, in just our third year, we turned it around, got them back to the NCAA tournament in just the first time in 11 years
Wow.
and first winning season in 9. So, you know, being with coach has been incredible. Not like the basketball piece speaks for itself. Everybody knows he's a legendary coach, national champion, should be in the Hall of Fame right now. Hopefully they come to their senses and get that done
I
sooner
think
than
that
later.
that'll happen.
And but the rebuilding, right? Like coach is just incredible. He did it at Tulsa and got them to
Yeah.
Sweet 16. Did it at Georgia, got into the NCAA tournament right away. Sweet 16 round of 32. Kept it going at Kentucky and won a national championship. Rebuild, and they went from 9 wins to 20 in our first season, right at Minnesota. So learning how to rebuild, but doing it at a steady pace, not
Right.
coming in and trying to turn over a roster in just one
Yeah.
year, but doing it at a steady pace. Because the one thing that I learned from coach in all the years is anything that's sustainable takes time. And the one thing that coach really, really, valued whenever he left someplace, he wanted to leave it great for the next coach so
Sure.
they could keep it going. And I think he's done that everywhere he's been. Look at what he did at High Point. You may not see it in wins, but helped them raise the rest of the money to build an unbelievable
Sure.
facility.
Yeah.
Like that program is going to be an A10 school probably within the next 4 to 5 years because of facility and the financial stability they have. It started with coach. And so uh, I talk to him probably every other day during the season. Probably the best Division 3 assistant coach in the world.
That's
People don't
awesome.
realize it, but he really is. I mean, he jumps in meetings and he's very valuable to the staff, to myself. The players absolutely adore him. They get a chance to spend a lot of time with him. Sometimes they call him the grandpa of the Lynx program, which I don't know if he really wants to hear that or not, but they love him and they call him the happiest, jolliest coach they've ever seen. But they didn't get to see the coach that I was around a lot of times. So, but no, I mean he's the best. He was at our conference tournament last year, came to the semifinals and finals game. Great person to bounce ideas off of, and he's really invested in what we're doing and really helping the program, but also my career keep taking the steps in the right direction.
What was it like as a student manager working on the staff at Kentucky? So you were there, what, 2001 to 2005, I think.
Yep.
I mean, that's high level Division 1 basketball, Rupp Arena. Like, what was that like to be part of that whole thing?
I tell people all the time, I took it for granted, right? As an 18 to 22-year-old, you don't understand
Yeah.
the full picture all the time. And, walking into, 17, 18 home games where there's 23,000 fans
Right.
every single time. Two exhibition games that sold out with 23,000 fans.
Yeah.
You don't like that's my first college basketball experience. So you kind of take
There's
it for
nowhere to
granted,
go from there.
right? And so it's one of those I look back on it, it was you were expected to get rings at Kentucky.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how hard it was to actually win those rings, right?
Yeah.
Because it was just a part of the culture and it was just expected. And so, you walk out of there 3 out of 4 years with championship rings, and then 1 out of 2 years as a grad. So I walked out of there for the 4 out of 6 years. I've got rings that sit up on my. I wish I was in my office so you can see them because it's in my backdrop
That's cool.
up on this ledge. But it was an incredible experience. I mean, to me, it's the mecca of college basketball. I get people argue it. I grew up in Indiana, so there's a lot of IU
Yeah.
fans. A lot of friends are going to watch this, and I'm going to get a lot of texts in the group chat as soon as this is released that they have their argument. But there's no other fan base like the Big Blue Nation. There's not. I mean, you can criticize it all you want, but you talk about a fan base that is invested.
Yeah.
Like literally, their lives are invested in this. It's the most fun, incredible experience you can have by being on that floor,
Sure.
and looking up and seeing all those fans and enjoying little things like the why, that they do at a certain timeout. I think it's under 12 timeout in the second half, and all the celebrities that come through and all the different people you get to meet. You take it for granted, but when you leave, you really appreciate it a lot more.
So talking a little bit, Zoe, about your team this year. So it looks to me from looking at your roster, and kudos for the Lynx for having the roster up. That helps.
And updated, fully
Yeah,
updated.
yeah. So it looks to me like you have three starters that are returning this year, and Zevian Williams, Trevor Lombard, and Jack Dempsey. Then you've got a couple other guys that played key roles for you that are also returning, in Sean Jones and Cass Romberg.
That's right. Yep.
So you've got a really good nucleus of guys coming back.
Yes.
You mentioned a couple transfers. If you'd care to share with us, who are the guys that have come into the program transfer wise, and then I'll ask about the freshmen. Who do you expect to be right in the mix in that varsity rotation in terms of transfers, if any of them you'd expect to be?
Yeah, so both transfers are going to be very impactful. Caleb Green, which was at BSC, Birmingham
Oh
Southern,
yeah, yeah.
last year, he was a junior. He's a senior transfer in, and he's obviously he averaged 17, 18 a game.
Sure,
They
yeah.
finished second in the league. Incredible, prolific scorer, but an even better defender. An incredible on ball defender, super fast, aggressive.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
big one.
Huge pickup for us, and we're in
Absolutely.
and really excited about him. And then we also have a transfer from Stetson, Jackson Huxtable. He's originally from Australia. Sean Finney, associate head coach, great friend of mine, really helped us, get in the mix with Jackson and
Wow.
get him a 6'6" 3-man. You don't see that a lot at our level.
It's awesome.
And so we got a 6'6" starting point guard, and we got a 6'6"
Yeah.
backup 3-man that's coming off the bench. So we've got a lot of length this year. We play pretty up tempo without giving too much away. We're trying to get the ball up and down the floor pretty quickly. We're not overly like aggressive in our press. It's we're tempoing things down. We're using our length to our advantage. We're trying to. We're still learning
Sure.
how to play a little bit at this faster pace and using it to our advantage. And we're still trying to figure out what are really great shots, good shots, and not so good as shots. But that's why we take this trip, right? So these guys that are, Caleb's used to playing a certain style at BSC, and he's trying to learn these guys and a new system. And Jackson's the same way. At Stetson, they played a lot more possession ball and a lot more sets and a lot more ball screens. So we're getting out and we're drive and kick and we're ripping and going opposite. And so there's a lot of learning right now, a lot. And then you have freshmen. You got a guy like Murray Norman, who I'm going to jump in and go ahead and take your question on.
Yeah,
freshmen.
please.
Okay. A guy like Murray Norman, who was top 3 in the state of Tennessee in scoring.
Wow.
Who is good. We have high expectations for him, and incredible shooter. And Brady Donlin, who's 6'8", 5-man that can get up and down the floor, can step out and knock down jumpers. And then we got another young man that was just a prolific scorer in Arkansas, Sam Maddox, won a state championship. So our new guys they're expected to contribute all the way across, transfers through the freshmen. And because of that, we want to be deep and we want to play a lot of guys. We want to play a little more up tempo.
Yeah, it sounds like really when you add those newcomers with a solid group that you have coming back, you have pretty good reason to be excited about getting in the mix in the SAA, right? I mean, we talked about
Yep.
Barry, 13-1 last year. After Barry, it was really a very jumbled race. They won it by a full 4 games in the loss column,
Yep.
but they've also had coaching turnover, and so they've got some
Correct.
things to work through.
Yep.
And with what you have, I mean, you've got to be pretty excited, Zoe, about kind of taking this group, and you've got this trip to Canada where you're getting a little extra look at your guys. This is you got to be feeling pretty good,
There's
correct?
no doubt. And our practices have been a lot of fun. And the guys are very, very coachable. And that's what we're looking for, right? And like today's practice, we know mistakes are going to happen because they're still adjusting to a new system. And I made some principal adjustments to our defense and to our offense. So a lot of learning happening right now. But the coachability of these guys and their willingness to want to be better every day and their willingness to want to be a championship caliber program. And that's what they're like. We're not shying away from it. It's who we want to be.
Sure.
We know that Mitch and Mick set a standard at Barry over the last five
Sure
years
did.
that we're chasing after. We know that Greg set a standard at center that we want to be like one day, and we're not shying away from how good they really have been and how great they are as coaches and what they've done there. We know we're not there yet. We're also very
Right.
aware of that. But it's time to turn that page and accept the fact that we can't keep talking about it. You got to walk the walk now. And so, yes, very excited. We've got a lot of work to do to get there, but I do think we have a great shot at contending for an SAA championship.
Just a couple more questions for you. We're talking to Zoe Goodson, the head men's basketball coach of Rhodes College in Memphis. Wanted to ask about Rhodes College itself. I spent a weekend there 8, 9 years ago. The years all run together. My Illinois
So it's
Wesleyan
time to get
tight.
you back, right?
Yeah, I'd love
We
to
got to
go
get
to
you
a
back
game.
for the
It's
All
easy to
Academic Classic.
get to Memphis, and I remember being there. We played. We meaning my alma mater played in a tournament there at Rhodes, and so it's a beautiful campus. Obviously, Memphis is a fun place. Talk a little bit for the QCast viewers here. How would you describe Rhodes College?
Rhodes is, well, first of all, it's Hogwarts in real life when you walk on campus, right? I mean, it's just
It
the most
is.
beautiful, it's one of the most beautiful campuses you'll
It
ever
is.
step foot on. And this time of year, it's just an incredible, incredible place. Academically, it's second to none. These young men and women at this campus are the most focused academic students that you'll see anywhere. I'll put them up against anybody. They know what they want. They know what they're going to go after, and they're going to go get it. Our professors, our faculty, they hold our students to a very, very high standard,
Sure.
and because of that, these young men and women are walking across that stage. 83%. This is one of the most incredible numbers, and I preach it everywhere I go. It's not about basketball players. This is about getting an education, coming and actually learning something and getting you prepared for the real world.
Sure.
83% of our students, when they walk across that stage, are walking into their field of choice. Not just a job, not any job, to their true field of choice.
Wow.
So they're walking into seemingly almost their dream job, right? And they're working towards that at 22 years old. We don't have to talk finances or salaries because that piece right there alone speaks for itself. And so you talk about a selling point when I'm out recruiting. A lot of people like to ask me, like, how hard is it? Because you're at such a high. It's not easy because we do have a set, group of folks that we can go after. But at the end of the day, Rhodes sells itself.
Right.
So once we get them convinced to give us a chance, that we're turning things around as a basketball program and we're headed to new heights and we're doing it. Just give us a chance. Come to campus. It sells itself. Once they're on campus and they meet with our career services folks and Amy and her crew and what they do. And it is our admissions folks all the way through, Megan Starling and our president. Everybody's so involved. Everybody, like, our president doesn't miss a game. And President
Wow.
Collins is at
That's great.
every single home game. There's not a, I'm telling you, she will adjust her schedule to be at men's and women's
That's
basketball games,
awesome.
volleyball games. She doesn't. So everybody's involved. We're all in it to not just help me get players, but they're really in it to help everyone. And we're in it to help our admissions folks
That's great.
meet their numbers. And so the community as one is unbelievable. That's the part. And you could say that. And you notice I've never used the word family because a true family, like when you walk into a place with your family, you're not like, oh, we're a family. We're talking about it. Because you see it, right? When people see
Sure.
you all together, they know you're a family.
Yep.
Come to Rhodes, you'll see it. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to plaster the word family all over everything because when you walk on campus, people know it. They see it, they feel it. It's our environment. It's what you're a part of. And that's the difference. That's the Rhodes difference. I mean, and you could call it arrogant, you can call it what you want. It's reality. The reality of it is the Rhodes difference is you feel it and see it when you're here and you don't want to leave it.
Yeah, and for anyone that hasn't been on campus, you should make a trip there. It is a stunning campus. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Then the last question for you, Zoe, is I just want to ask about Division III because before this job, you weren't a Division III guy at all. I'll read off those stops: Kentucky, Minnesota, Texas Tech, Memphis, High Point. No D3s in there, so you get thrown into this D3 world, and you've been in it now 4 years, going on your fifth, I believe. What's been your impression of NCAA Division III? Because it's different. It's a lot different than
It's
any other level.
yeah.
How would you describe it, and what's your impression of it?
I mean, I love it. The number one thing you hear, especially from yourself and others that are D3 hoops fans, like it's the purest form of college athletics, right? These guys are truly in it because they absolutely love it.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not getting, there's no $500,000 NIL deals. There's no full scholarship. They're paying to do this. And so you talk about the purest form of college athletics, the purest form of college experience. It These players, these athletes, these men and women, their dedication to their craft and what they're doing is unlike anything else I've seen. So much is taken for granted at Division I and Division II. So much is expected at Division I and Division II to be handed to them. Division III, there's nothing handed to anybody, right? I mean, they're
right.
absolutely working their tails off every single day just to get a chance, just to get a chance in the classroom, just to get just to get a little bit of recognition on the ABC station once a year, just to get a little bit of a playing time, and there's it's no secret. Rhodes is an expensive place to go to school. And so the sacrifice have to make it even more pure to me.
Right.
And we've got 12 families here on this trip with us in Montreal. 12
Wow.
of our players' families came with us on this trip. You talk about a true incredible atmosphere and what we are able to do. You didn't get that at Division I. You didn't.
Right.
Now some would travel, but you didn't have 12 out of 18.
Right.
We didn't
That's
have two
huge.
thirds of it. And so to me, it's been really, and I know that again, it's cliche, but it's been the most fun I've had. Of course, I'm setting on my own schedule and I'm the head coach. So of course I'm going to have a lot more fun when you're the head coach. But the what we're getting from the guys and the feedback we get and the relationships, you know, you could come by my office at any point, any day, and there's going to be at least one or two, maybe three or four players in my office all
Right.
day long. They just love being a part of it and around it. And I'm the luckiest person in the world that I have a job like I have at Rhodes, where my athletic director and our associate AD Kim House and everybody gives me the freedom, that what I call the creative freedom to
Sure.
run the program the way I want. And so, I wouldn't trade my first job for anything else. Like you could say, oh yeah, you would. Everybody would want that Division I job. I've got to learn a lot at this level, and I've been forced to do everything because I don't have
Yeah.
12 assistant
Yeah.
coaches. I don't have a staff as big as my roster, and so it's been a really really incredible experience because I've learned a lot, and I keep learning daily. I also want to say this: Pat McGrail, my associate head coach before he went to, he was a D3 dude. Like that
Right.
guy is D3 through and through. Played at Rhodes, loves the D3, the whole everything about it. Pat McGrail was instrumental in me learning Division III the right way. and how to operate
Sure.
within Division III because it's very different, right? And
It
you talk
is.
about a close knit group of folks, yourself and the coaches and the folks that cover as a media and everybody else and in between, the folks that put together the events around the country. Everybody's very tight knit group.
Yeah.
Everybody's friends, and so that's very different. I will say this happily: we're at our level, we're not as near as cutthroat, and that makes it a lot more fun, a lot easier to rest at night for sure.
It's very well said. I was golfing yesterday, and I heard these guys that were sitting next to us post round having a couple beers, and they were talking about Division I athletics and just all the challenges with NIL and where Division I is going, and some of the high profile coaches that have kind of stepped aside because of where Division I is going. I just quietly thought to myself, Division III has its quirks, but we have student athletes that are students and athletes, and
Yep.
they're doing it because they want to do it. It's kind of like what athletics at colleges used to be 50, 75 years ago. It's like people showing up and wanting to go to school there, but also play a sport. And we have it pretty good, though, right? We have it pretty good.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And you know, the next step to this is obviously NILs is penetrating all levels, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
it's here to stay.
and it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere at our level. And
Right.
and to me, it's incredible to be able to hopefully implement that the right way at our level without it getting out of control. And I'm a big proponent of it. I think we stick with it and we make the most of it
Yeah.
at our level. We've had a great opportunity at Rhodes with a company called Mogul as an NIL platform, but it's not going to touch the pureness of our level. And I
Right.
firmly believe that. I don't think that's going anywhere.
No, I agree with you. And I know that many Division III schools are embracing NIL, and they have to, right? I mean, like Marietta has a trust. I think they're trying to get that going. Many D3s are working hard to figure out, as they should, what to do with NIL. Zoe, I thank you for your time. It's cool that we were able to catch you while you're in Montreal, playing some games, getting ready for the season. You're on your international trip. But I want to leave you the final word here. I'll just say thank you for your time. And it really does sound like, based on what you have coming back and who you've added, I mean, going into the year, you guys should be feeling great. So this has been fun to catch up. What would you leave the QCast viewers with? We'll have some from Lynx Nation tuning in, D3 Nation in general. The platform's yours, my friend.
There's two things. So first one, we got to get you back to Rhodes. It's been too long.
I would
So
like
we got to
to.
get you back. So all academic classic, whatever it is, you tell me. We'll roll out the red carpet. You're welcome
I like it.
as a consultant even with us.
I like it.
Number two, Illinois Wesleyan is coming to campus next season, not this year, but next year.
I didn't know that.
So we got and they may not like me telling that, but we've got a classic we're hosting in November. So we know we'll see you then,
Well,
right?
that, like, I'm verbally committed to that one.
I
That's a
love it.
done deal.
But in all seriousness, and I was being serious too. We really want you to come, and we're trying to make Rhodes a national name again. Obviously, Coach Hilgeman was incredible in the 80s and 90s, and
Yeah.
Rhodes was very well known. Only been to the NCAA tournament one time in the 2000s. Our job, Matt Dean, when he hired me to come to Rhodes, was to get Rhodes back on the
Sure.
Coach Hilgeman train and get it recognized again. I think we took a huge step today. So we really thank you for getting us this attention today. And that's our job, and we're going to get there. And so the luckiest man in the world. I stand by it. I love my job. I love everything about it. I really enjoy Division III basketball. I enjoy coaching these young men and how hard they work. So I really appreciate you allowing me the time today.
Hey, anyone that wants to talk D3 hoops and what's going on in their program, like Coach, anyone will tell you I'm all in. And it's been a pleasure to meet you and hear the energy that's coming out of your program, and all the great things happening. And boy, you just broke scheduling news. This is phenomenal. That not like the Titans are coming to Memphis,
Hey man,
and so that's a done deal.
November 22nd, 23rd. We're locking them in for good now. They can't back out now.
Oh no no
No, they would never back out.
I
I'm just playing.
I have a great time following this year. They're coming down to Texas, and I'll get a chance to see them in person down here. So that's awesome. Folks, that's Zoe Goodson, the head men's basketball coach of the Lynx of Rhodes College. And as you can tell, there's good things happening at Rhodes under Coach Goodson. So, Zoe, thank you so much and have a great rest of your time in Canada, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it again.